So just because you search somebody's residence or vehicle or other property doesn't necessarily mean that that person is your suspect in the crime. It simply means that that place is likely to have evidence related to the crime.
The FBI just dropped a bombshell. For months, everyone believed David was the monster behind Celeste Rivas' death. But after raiding his house and then his car, the case flipped on its head. The evidence now proves David isn't the killer, which raises the bigger question. Who really did it and why was he framed? This story is the definition of when keeping it real goes all the way wrong. Remember when the news first broke? A decomposed body found in a Tesla registered to the singer. It sounded like something straight out of a movie script, but this isn't fiction. This is real life. And in real life, the truth cuts a lot deeper.
Huge development in the case involving singer David and the body found in his Tesla. Police have executed a search warrant searching the house he was apparently staying at and walking out with what may well be evidence.
The whole nightmare started on a regular Monday morning, September 8th, 2025. Workers at a Hollywood tow yard noticed a foul smell coming from a black Tesla Model 3 that had been sitting there. For days, the car had Texas plates and was registered to David Anthony. Burka, that's David's government name, but here's the sketchy part. This wasn't the first time neighbors had seen that Tesla people in the Hollywood. Hills said the car kept switching spots for weeks, like somebody was moving it around on purpose. And if you know anything about those neighborhoods, the residents don't play about strange cars parked on their blocks. Folks were already keeping tabs before things turned ugly when tow yard workers finally opened the front trunk. What they found shook everybody. Inside, wrapped in a bag, were severely decomposed and dismembered remains of a teenage girl. The body was in such bad shape it took the coroner over about a week to figure out who she was. In the end, they only managed to ID her because of a small Esh tattoo on her right index finger. And that little detail, it's about to become very important.
Yeah, well, she was basically talking about how one of the identifying features of Celeste was a tattoo on her finger, which she specified to us, which we then transferred over to that information to LAPD, was that the tattoo was red.
The discovery had LAPD's Robbery Homicide Division on the scene fast, which told everybody this wasn't some regular missing person case anymore. The condition of the body made it clear it had been sitting in that car for weeks, maybe even months, that raised some ugly questions about how this whole thing went down. Meanwhile, David was hundreds of miles away. At the time, he was out doing shows on tour for his album Withered on Paper. The timing looked like it gave him an alibi. He'd been performing in front of crowds for over a month before the body was even found. His team was quick to push that narrative, putting out statements that he was cooperating fully and couldn't have been involved. At first, most people bought it, fans. Media, even industry heads were riding for David. He'd built this image as a wholesome, self-made artist recording beats on his iPhone in his sister's closet before breaking out with his viral hit Romantic Homicide. That record got him signed to Interscope and put him in the room with big names like Zier and Keys. The idea that this seemingly innocent kid could be tied to something this twisted, for most, it just didn't add up.
That's why when the news first broke, most people just assumed he couldn't have possibly done it. I even said to a friend when it first came out, I was like, I feel like the Fortnite kid who was pretty normal didn't do something like this. Because that was always the impression that I got from him, but that may not be the case.
David's whole come-up story was part of what made fans love him so much. Born David Anthony Burke in Houston, he first made Fortnite videos before switching to music. He only started making beats because he needed background tracks for his gaming content that wouldn't get hit with copyright claims. That grind plus his quiet and humble personality made him super relatable. Young fans saw him as a real one, not like the so-called industry plants who came from money. But as more details came out, the story started to flip. LAPD said the Tesla was one of several cars David owned and that multiple people in his circle had access to them. At first, that made it sound like almost anyone, his management, homies, or even other artists could have been driving the car. Still, while official statements stayed neutral, the moves happening behind the scenes told a different story. Big brands like Crocs and Hollister quickly cut ties, pulling their campaigns and collabs, even though David hadn't been charged. When corporations move that fast, it usually means they've heard something behind closed doors that makes them nervous about staying connected. Then came the game changer. TMZ tracked down the victim's mother for an interview. She revealed details police hadn't made public yet. Not only did she confirm the shirt found matched her daughter's, but she also dropped a bomb her daughter had been dating someone named David before she disappeared.
And also, and I think even more importantly, was that she mentioned that Celeste, at least she was under the impression that Celeste was dating a guy called David. and that she had hung out with him several times before, and that was the last time she saw him.
This revelation sent investigators scrambling to put together a timeline, one that uncovered some dark truths nobody was ready for. The victim was identified as 15-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez from Lake Elsinore, California. She'd been reported missing several times throughout 2024, with her last disappearance in April, when she was only 14. The timing of her discovery made everything even more chilling. Her body was found on September 8th, the day after what should have been her 15th birthday. Celeste never even got to celebrate turning 15, and her remains were discovered just one day after that milestone. Investigators immediately started wondering if the date itself carried meaning for whoever was behind her death. Once her identity became public, the case shifted into high gear. Police zeroed in on a Hollywood Hills house where David had been staying. The house was rented by his manager, but it was where David spent most of his time. The red flag? That house was less than 100 feet away from where the Tesla had been abandoned. Now think about that. Real criminals usually go out of their way to get rid of evidence far from anywhere that could tie back to them. But here was a car with a decomposed body sitting practically outside David's front door. That kind of proximity suggested one of two things. Either someone was unbelievably sloppy, or they were in such a panic that they dumped the car without thinking right where they felt safest. And then came the digital trail. As the investigation into Celeste's death heated up, a wave of online evidence started to surface. What began as social media rumors quickly turned into a disturbing paper trail that painted a horrifying picture of the relationship between this teenage victim and a rising music star. The connections went back years, revealing a disturbing pattern that started when Celeste was still just a child. The most damning evidence came from David's own Discord server. Archived messages showed him talking to a user named Celeste as far back as 2021. These digital breadcrumbs became critical in proving not only that David knew her, but that their relationship had been ongoing for years. Beginning when she was only 11 or 12, moderators who ran David's Discord later tried to cover themselves, claiming they thought Celeste was 18 or 19 and had no idea she was a missing 15-year-old. But the evidence told a much darker story. The conversation showed what anyone street smart would instantly recognize as classic grooming behavior. Sources with access to the archives revealed that David first connected with Celeste through Roblox when she was just 11. From there, their conversations moved on to Discord and eventually other platforms as the relationship developed. Parents everywhere know how predators move start on kid-friendly apps, then shift to more private spaces once trust is built. One detail investigators focused on heavily was the tattoos. Both David and Celeste had identical tattoos on their right index fingers. Detectives believed this was a secret marker of their hidden relationship. Now, that design itself wasn't unique. Celebrities like Rihanna, Lindsay Lohan, and Cher Lloyd all had similar tattoos. But in this case, the specific placement, timing, and context raised serious questions about the real meaning behind them.
And that's just one of many images, moving and still, that have been popping up all over social media in the last couple of weeks. There seems to be a really strong digital footprint showing them in various locations, backstage at his concerts, doing his live stream, and various still images taken in various places, going back at least to early 2024.
But the most disturbing evidence came from the music itself. Investigators uncovered a leaked demo track titled Celeste that David allegedly recorded back in December 2023. The lyrics were obsessive, borderline confessional. One chilling line went, "Oh, Celeste, the girl with my name tattooed on her chest. Smell her on my clothes like cigarettes. I hear her voice each time I take a breath. I'm obsessed." The song didn't just echo the tattoo connection, it hinted at a level of intimacy that crossed every possible boundary. What made it worse was the timeline. If the demo was truly recorded in late 2023, Celeste would have been only 13 or 14 at the time. The possessive, obsessive lyrics made it clear investigators weren't just dealing with speculation anymore, and this wasn't the only red flag. Fans and internet sleuths started pointing out a disturbing pattern in how David timed his music releases. For example, his breakout video Romantic Homicide dropped on September 7th, 2022, Celeste's actual birthday. At first, it might have seemed like coincidence, but the more people looked, the more they noticed a pattern. Major releases tied to her birthday. Year after year in the music industry, release dates are carefully chosen for marketing chart, positioning, and industry timing, but in David's case, these dates seemed personal, hauntingly personal, and it added weight to theories that his connection to Celeste wasn't just real, but deeply, dangerously intimate.
He trained you. That's controversial.
It's controversial of kids.
Really good.
Okay,
It's been a good one. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Mwah, 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 mwah. Oh my! Delete everything. Delete everything. Everything goes. Everything.
The digital trail didn't end with Discord or suspicious release dates. Online investigators started digging through social media and uncovered photos and videos of David with a girl who looked eerily like Celeste. Her face was often hidden or turned away, but the body language told its own story. These weren't chance encounters. Some of the images were allegedly pulled from leaked iCloud files showing the two together across multiple settings. Backstage at shows inside private homes, and even traveling. What really set the internet on fire was a joint live stream supposedly recorded in January 2024. In it, David and Celeste appeared together laughing, responding to fans and acting far too comfortable for strangers. Video vanished. Shortly after, but its brief existence fueled suspicions that someone was actively scrubbing evidence of their connection. Then came testimony that changed everything. A former teacher from Celeste's middle school went viral on TikTok, revealing that Celeste had told classmates about meeting David online when she was just 13. According to this teacher, Celeste had even run away to Hollywood to be with him, only to be found by police and sent back home before disappearing again in 2024. This wasn't internet gossip anymore. This was a verified adult recalling what had been discussed in a classroom setting as part of a warning about online predators. The revelation painted a chilling timeline. Celeste had been reported missing at least 4 times in 2024, each disappearance seemingly tied to her connection with David. Her own brother confirmed that the last time he saw her alive, she said she was heading to a movie with someone named David, and the car she left in, the very same black Tesla, where her remains were later found. Her body being discovered in that same Tesla added another chilling layer. It suggested that the car which became her tomb may have also been the vehicle that carried her away the last time she ever left home alive. But investigators weren't just piecing together physical evidence. They were analyzing David's digital footprint. His TikTok activity alone raised red flags. Among his reposts were clips centered on jealousy, violence, and obsessive relationships. Undisturbing video even referenced cannibalism and consuming a deceased partner, imagery that took on a horrifying new weight once Celeste's remains were found. Taken together, this wasn't just random online behavior. The cumulative trail across Discord, TikTok leaked images, live streams, and even unreleased music painted the picture of something far more sinister. What emerged was a systematic grooming pattern years in the making, escalating from online conversations to physical meetings, repeated disappearances, and ultimately a deadly outcome. Everything reached a breaking point on September 17, 2025. That morning, LAPD homicide detectives rolled up on the Hollywood Hills home where David had been staying, but this wasn't some quiet questioning at the door. This was a full-scale raid. Multiple specialized units swarmed the property, executing a search warrant that would last hours, and what they uncovered inside would flip the entire investigation on its head.
Whether she,
and find evidence of what happened to her, right? Like,
and then to find out.
And who else was, because I was told by a neighbor that there was a lot of people going in and out of this house.
Right.
He obviously had friends of his that were living there. So doesn't necessarily mean it was David. Was it maybe someone else that was frequenting the house? We don't know.
Getting that search warrant wasn't easy. Detectives had to prove to a judge that Celeste's death was directly tied to this property and that evidence of that crime would be found inside. The fact that they pulled it off told everyone one thing. Investigators had some serious receipts linking this Hollywood Hills mansion to the case. This wasn't just any house either. A $4 million estate rented for $2,000 a month through David's manager, and the kicker? It sat less than 100 feet from where that Tesla with Celeste's remains had been abandoned. That detail alone made the place impossible to ignore. Either somebody got sloppy, or they panicked so bad they ditched the car right outside their own front door. The raid wasn't rushed. Detectives had spent weeks preparing, lining up their evidence, and making sure the legal process was airtight when they finally moved. In it was with a team of specialists and a plan designed to strip the place bare. Inside, they seized multiple computers, phones, and stacks of electronic storage. Devices each one a potential goldmine. Digital forensics experts immediately began the tedious work of recovering deleted messages, old photographs, and years of communications. These devices weren't just electronics. They were time capsules that could reveal the entire scope of David's relationship with Celeste, every DM, every photo, every secret that might have been buried. And once investigators started combing through those files, what they found made the case darker than anyone expected.
Well, in order to get a search warrant, you need to be able to articulate to a judge that you have probable cause to believe crime has been committed and that evidence of that crime is going to be found in the place that you intend to search. So just because you search somebody's residence or vehicle or other property doesn't necessarily mean that that person is your suspect in the crime. It simply means that that place is likely to have evidence related to the crime.
One of the most chilling parts of the raid was what detectives were really after. Sources close to the case revealed investigators weren't just looking for electronics, they were searching for blood. That detail alone suggested police believed Celeste may have been killed in that very house, or that her body had been processed there before ending up in the Tesla forensics teams went room by room using luminol and advanced chemical testing to detect microscopic traces of blood even. If the crime scene had been scrubbed spotless, they focused heavily on places where a body could have been hidden: the basement, the garage, even freezers. The grim reality was unavoidable. The advanced decomposition in the Tesla pointed to the possibility that Celeste had been dead for weeks, maybe months, before anyone found her, which begged the question, where was she kept all that time? The timing of the raid spoke volumes. It happened just one day after Celeste's identity was officially confirmed, a sign that detectives had been quietly building their case and waiting for the right moment to strike. The speed and precision of the move hinted at surveillance tooth that investigators may have already been watching who came and went from the property before kicking the doors in. And then came David's reaction. Within days of the search movers showed up, furniture, clothes, equipment. Everything was hauled out of the $1 million mansion in record time. David abruptly broke his lease and walked away from the property entirely. To outsiders, it looked like he was running from the house just as fast as investigators were closing in. But if he thought leaving the mansion would distance him from the evidence, he was wrong. What detectives were uncovering inside was about to drag him even deeper into the nightmare media scrutiny surrounding the case. The fact that he walked away from a $2,000 per month lease and abandoned a luxury property suggested either panic or advice from legal counsel to minimize his connection to the crime scene. The investigation also revealed troubling details about David's crew and inner circle. His bodyguard Mark Morales came under FBI scrutiny for a potential role in the case, while questions arose about how many people in David's organization knew about his relationship with Celeste. The involvement of federal investigators suggested the case might have interstate elements or other factors that brought it under federal jurisdiction, possibly, including transporting a minor across state lines. Friends in the LA music scene later revealed they believed Celeste was David's 19-year-old girlfriend, unaware of her true age, due to what they described as her use of fake IDs to gain access to age-restricted venues. This revelation painted a picture of an elaborate deception that allowed Celeste to move in adult circles while still being a minor, raising questions about how many people were complicit in maintaining this fiction and what they might have known about the true nature of the relationship.
And it is the most insane thing I've ever heard. The story is the most insane thing I've ever heard. The reason why I say this is because, there is not really ever a circumstance where the best case scenario is that this person is just a pedophile kidnapper, and the worst case scenario is that he's a pedophile kidnapper who also murdered someone.
But the most damaging hit to David's defense came when private investigator Steve Fisher released his findings. Fisher suggested that while Celeste may have overdosed, her body didn't end up in that car by accident. In other words, someone committed a crime. Even worse, Fisher uncovered that David's manager, Josh Marshall, already knew back in 2024 that Celeste was listed as a missing person. That detail shredded any excuse of ignorance continuing contact with her. Despite that knowledge could open the door to charges like harboring a runaway or contributing to the delinquency of a minor, even if proving murder itself became tricky. The case took an even stranger twist when David's mother, Colleen Burke, was spotted leaving a Texas gun shop with an AR-15 manual in hand. It was her first public sighting since the scandal broke, and the photo instantly went viral. No one could prove it tied back to the investigation, but the timing raised serious questions. Was the family bracing for threats or just leaning into their Second Amendment rights under the pressure? Meanwhile, David's career began to collapse in real time. His label Intercope froze all promotion. Management went silent, and tour dates were systematically canceled, costing millions and leaving thousands of fans stranded. The ripple effect tore through the industry. Artists he had worked with started cutting ties. Kali Uchis announced she was working to pull their collaboration off streaming while other planned projects were quietly shelved. The speed of the industry's retreat suggested insiders knew more than the public did, and whatever they knew made standing by David impossible. As of now, the biggest unanswered question is the cause of death. The coroner's final report is still pending, without clear forensic evidence of homicide. Prosecutors can't move forward with murder charges, but experts warn lesser charges like obstruction or evidence tampering are still firmly on the table.
A lot of people are going to be asking the very obvious question of why hasn't David been brought in at least for questioning? Law enforcement doesn't have the answers they want in order to be able to confront or question David, especially without an autopsy report as to the cause and manner of.
The delay in arrests has left many outraged. To the public, the evidence feels overwhelming and they want accountability now. But veteran defense attorneys and ex-prosecutors have warned cases like this aren't built overnight with a defendant as high profile as David. Prosecutors know they only get one shot if they move too early and lose double. Jeopardy rules could block them from ever trying him again. Meanwhile, Celeste's family finally received her body on September 23rd or 24th, 2025. After months of agonizing uncertainty, they were at least able to lay her to rest. Community vigils in Lake Elsinore drew hundreds of mourners' friends, neighbors, strangers, all gathering to honor a life cut short and to demand justice in her name. The public response has been nothing short of explosive. Social media campaigns lit up calling for accountability and warning about the dangers lurking. Online advocacy groups have used the case to spotlight a painful reality. Predators are increasingly targeting minors through seemingly innocent platforms, especially gaming spaces like Roblox, where investigators believe the first contact between David and Celeste began. For many, Celeste's death is no longer just about one tragedy. It's become a wake-up call about how vulnerable kids really are in the digital world.
The latest thing to happen was the alleged brother of the victim, who was followed by David, was found. People started DMing him and asking him questions, which I think is a bit too far. Like, this guy's definitely grieving right now that his sister's body was just found.
The toll on Celeste's family has been devastating. Her brother has even faced harassment from online investigators and social media users digging for answers. It's a harsh reminder of the dark side of internet vigilantism, where the rush for clues and theories can cause fresh trauma and even interfere with official investigations. Meanwhile, the entertainment industry is still reeling. This case forces tough questions about the role of record labels, managers, and entire support teams. How much responsibility do they bear when it comes to monitoring artists, especially when fan relationships are involved? The fact that so many in David's circle believed Celeste was an adult suggests either a carefully crafted deception or willful ignorance of red flags that were hiding in plain sight. Mamayo. Thing is clear, this story is far from finished. Forensic results are still pending and legal proceedings may just be beginning. What started as a simple missing persons report has spiraled into a case that touches on child safety online. Predation, celebrity accountability, and the responsibility communities have to protect their most vulnerable. Thank you for watching. If you found this video insightful, click one of the boxes on your screen to keep exploring more stories like this.